I was staring at my laptop screen, reviewing quarterly reports in my Seattle apartment, when the knock came. Not the polite tap of a neighbor or the quick rhythm of a delivery driver. This was insistent, demanding. The kind of knock that said someone believed they had every right to be on the other side of my door. I knew before I even looked through the peephole. Mom and Dad stood there, dressed like they were attending a business meeting rather than visiting their daughter. Mom's pearls caught the hallway light. Dad's polo shirt was pressed to perfection. They wore the same expressions I remembered from childhood. Expectant, entitled, ready to ask for something they'd already convinced themselves I owed them. I opened the door. "Ava, honey." Mom swept past me without waiting for an invitation, her perfume trailing behind her like a claim staked on my space. Dad followed, hands in his pockets, eyes scanning my apartment with that particular look he reserved for things he thought weren't quite good enough. "We need to talk about your brother's wedding," Mom said, settling onto my couch like she owned it. I stayed standing. "Hello to you too." Dad cleared his throat. "Your mother and I have been going over the numbers. The venue Ethan and Brianna picked is expensive. The catering, the flowers, the photographer, it all adds up." "I'm sure it does." I crossed my arms, waiting. Mom's smile was syrup sweet, the kind that used to make my stomach turn when I was younger. "We were hoping you could help out. Actually, we need you to cover most of it. The wedding is just around the corner, and we're a bit short." The words hung in the air between us, heavy with assumption. "You want me to pay for Ethan's wedding?" "We need you to," Dad corrected, his tone shifting to something firmer. "You make good money now, Ava. We've seen your apartment, your car. You're doing well for yourself." I laughed. Not the polite kind, but the sharp, incredulous kind that comes when something is so absurd you can't quite believe it's real. "That's interesting, because when I was 18 and asked for help with college tuition, you told me no. You told me I was smart enough to figure it out on my own." Mom's smile tightened. "That was different." "How?" "College is an investment in yourself. You needed to learn responsibility." She said it like she was reciting a script she'd memorized years ago. "We couldn't just hand you everything." "But you can hand Ethan a wedding." Dad leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "Ethan is getting married. This is a once-in-a-lifetime event. He deserves to have a proper celebration. And I didn't deserve an education. Stop twisting our words." Dad's voice hardened. "We're asking you to do something for your brother, for your family. It's time you gave back." I stared at them. These two people who raised me but never really saw me. The apartment felt smaller suddenly, like the walls were closing in. "You're serious? You actually came here expecting me to write you a check?" "We came here," Mom said, her voice turning cold, "expecting you to act like family, but apparently that's too much to ask." "How much?" Dad straightened. 40,000 should cover it." The number landed like a punch to the gut. $40,000. For one day. For Ethan, who had never gone without. For Ethan, who got the summer programs, the gaming systems, the new car for graduation. For Ethan, who was always the golden child while I was the afterthought. "No." Mom blinked. "Excuse me?" "No, I'm not paying for Ethan's wedding. Not a cent." The silence that followed was suffocating. Mom's face flushed red, her eyes narrowing. Dad stood up, his jaw tight. "After everything we've done for you?" Mom's voice shook with rage. "After we raised you, fed you, gave you a home?" "Exactly." My voice was calm, steady, though my heart was racing. "After everything," Dad pointed at me, his finger jabbing the air. "You're being selfish, Ava. Your brother always needed more than you." "He's different. He needs support." "And I didn't?" "You were fine," Mom snapped. "You always figured things out. Ethan needs us." "Ethan is 25 years old. He has a job. If he wants an expensive wedding, he can pay for it himself. Or you can pay for it, but I'm not giving you a dime." Dad's voice dropped low, threatening. "You're going to regret this." "I doubt it." I walked to the door and opened it. "I think we're done here." Mom stood slowly, her movements deliberate, controlled. "You've changed, Ava. You used to be such a sweet girl. I used to be invisible." The words came out sharper than I intended, but I didn't take them back. Now please leave. They left without another word, but the look Mom gave me on her way out said everything. This wasn't over. The memories came flooding back that night, unbidden and unwelcome. I was 18 again, sitting at the kitchen table in my childhood home, college acceptance letters spread out in front of me. My hands were shaking as I looked at the tuition numbers, then at my parents. I know it's expensive, I said quietly, but if you could help with even part of it. Dad barely looked up from his newspaper. Ava, you're smart. There are scholarships out there. We can't pay for you. But we don't have the money. Mom's voice was final, dismissive. You'll figure it out. You always do. I remember nodding, swallowing the lump in my throat, feeling small and stupid for even asking. I remember walking back to my room and Googling student loans until my eyes burned. 2 weeks later, Ethan bounded into the living room, waving a brochure for an expensive summer coding program, $5,000 for 8 weeks. Can I go, please? He was 20 then, still living at home, still getting everything he wanted. Dad pulled out his credit card without hesitation. Absolutely, son. This is a great opportunity. I watched from the doorway, invisible as always. Or the Christmas when I was 16. I'd asked for a laptop for school. Something basic, used even. The old family computer in the den was dying, and I needed it for homework. Mom shook her head. Honey, just use the one we have. We can't afford extras right now. The next day, Ethan mentioned wanting a PlayStation 5. By dinner, Dad had ordered it. Boys need their fun, he said when I pointed out the double standard. Every Christmas was the same. Ethan got the big gift, the bike, the phone, the gaming setup. I got sweaters, cheap ones, and the same line every time. Girls don't need flashy things. But it wasn't about the things. It was never about the things. It was about being seen, being valued, being enough. I never was. 3 days after my parents' visit, I got a text from an unknown number. Coffee tomorrow, we should talk. Brianna, Ethan's fiancée, I'd met her twice, once at a family dinner where she spent the entire meal on her phone, and once at a birthday party where she made pointed comments about my cute little apartment. I didn't like her. The feeling was mutual, but curiosity got the better of me. I texted back, sure, where? She picked a trendy cafe downtown, the kind with exposed brick and overpriced lattes. When I arrived, she was already there, sitting at a table near the window, scrolling through her phone. She looked up when I approached, her smile tight and rehearsed. Ava, thanks for coming. She gestured to the chair across from her. Sit. I sat, ordering nothing. This wasn't going to take long. Brianna leaned forward, her voice low and conspiratorial. So, your parents told us about your conversation? Did they? They're really hurt, Ava, like, really hurt. Ethan is devastated. I said nothing. She sighed dramatically. Look, I get it. You and Ethan aren't super close, but this is our wedding. It's important. And honestly, we need your help. The venue we booked is incredible, but it's expensive. We want everything to be perfect. Then pay for it. Her smile faltered. Excuse me? If you want a perfect wedding, pay for it. You and Ethan both have jobs. It's not that simple. Her voice sharpened. Our wedding needs to look expensive. My family is loaded and they're expecting something high-end. We can't show up with some budget reception. It's your responsibility to help. You're his sister. My responsibility. I leaned back, crossing my arms. That's interesting, because no one thought it was their responsibility to help me pay for college. No one thought it was their responsibility to help me when I got kicked out at 19 for not wanting to be a burden. Brianna waved her hand dismissively. That was years ago. Get over it. No, she blinked. What? No, I'm not paying for your wedding. I'm not helping. And I'm definitely not taking financial advice from someone who thinks a wedding is more important than an education. Her face turned red. She slammed her hand on the table, loud enough that the entire cafe turned to stare. Are you serious? You're going to ruin our wedding because you're bitter about the past? I'm not ruining anything. I stood grabbing my purse. You're ruining it by expecting other people to fund your fantasy. Good luck, Bree. She stood too, her voice rising. You're nothing, Ava, nothing. Just pay for the damn wedding. People were staring now, phones out, recording. Brianna realized too late what she'd done. Her face paled, but the damage was done. I walked out, leaving her standing there in the wreckage of her own tantrum. The wedding invitation arrived 2 weeks later. Gold lettering on cream cardstock. Expensive, of course. I almost didn't go. But then I thought about it, really thought about it. They wanted to humiliate me, to paint me as the selfish sister who refused to help. Fine, let them try. I bought a designer dress, emerald green, elegant, impossible to ignore. I hired a car, and I called my financial advisor, Marcus, a sharp-dressed man in his 50s who'd helped me invest my earnings wisely over the years. I asked him to accompany me. Why? He asked, amused. Because I want them to see exactly how well I'm doing, without their help. He laughed. I'll be there. The wedding was held at a luxury hotel downtown, the kind with marble floors and crystal chandeliers. Guests milled around in designer suits and glittering jewelry, sipping champagne and pretending they belonged. I walked in on Marcus's arm and heads turned. Mom spotted me first. Her eyes widened, then narrowed. She whispered something to Dad, who looked over and scowled. They'd clearly been telling people I refused to help. The gossip had already started. I smiled and walked to my seat. The ceremony was beautiful, I'd give them that. Ethan looked nervous, but happy. Brianna looked triumphant, like she'd won some unspoken competition. When they kissed, the crowd applauded. I clapped politely, my face neutral. At the reception, the real drama began. Mom cornered me near the bar, her voice low and venomous. How dare you show up here looking like that after refusing to help? I was invited. You have no shame. I sipped my champagne. Actually, I do. That's why I'm not funding this circus. She opened her mouth to respond, but the DJ's voice cut through the room. Ladies and gentlemen, if I could have your attention. The mother of the groom would like to say a few words. Mom hurried to the microphone, her face flushed. She grabbed it, her smile forced. Thank you all for being here to celebrate Ethan and Brianna. It's been challenging to put this together. Some people didn't want to help. Her eyes found mine across the room. But we made it work, because family matters. The crowd murmured, confused. A few people glanced at me. I stood. Marcus looked at me, eyebrows raised. I handed him my glass and walked toward the microphone. Mom's smile faltered as I approached. Can I borrow that? I asked sweetly. She hesitated, then handed it over. I turned to face the room. Hi, everyone. I'm Ava, Ethan's older sister. I paused, letting the silence settle. My mom just mentioned that some people didn't help with this wedding. She's talking about me. And she's right. I didn't contribute a single dollar. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Ethan stood frozen near the head table. Brianna's face turned white. I didn't contribute? I continued, my voice calm. Because when I was 18 and asked my parents for help paying for college, they said no. They told me I needed to learn responsibility, that I was smart enough to figure it out on my own. So I did. I took out loans. I worked 3 jobs. I graduated with honors, and I did it without a cent from them. The room was silent now, everyone staring. But when Ethan wanted a summer program, they paid. When he wanted a new car, they paid. When he wanted a gaming system, they paid. Because apparently, boys need support. Girls just need to figure it out. Mom's face was crimson. Dad looked like he wanted to disappear. And now, I said, my voice steady, they want me to fund this wedding. $40,000 for one day, because family matters. I looked at Mom. But family didn't matter when I was drowning in debt. Family didn't matter when I got kicked out at 19 because I didn't want to be a burden. Family only matters now because it's convenient. Brianna stood, her voice shrill. You're ruining our wedding. No, I said calmly. I'm just telling the truth. I handed the microphone back to Mom and walked toward the exit. But before I reached the door, I turned back. Oh, one more thing. I smiled. That house you're planning to sell next month to help pay for all this, the one you've been bragging about to everyone? I bought it. Through an investment group. You didn't know it was mine, but it is. Congratulations on the sale. The gasps were louder this time. Mom's face went pale. Dad's mouth fell open. Ethan stood up, shouting something I couldn't hear over the sudden chaos. Brianna looked like she might faint. I walked out, Marcus beside me, his expression somewhere between shocked and impressed. "That was bold," he said as we reached the car. "That was necessary," I replied. We drove away, leaving the wreckage behind. Through the rearview mirror, I could see people flooding out of the hotel, their phones out, their voices raised. The wedding was imploding, and for the first time in my life, I didn't feel guilty. I felt free. 2 weeks later, I received an email from Ethan. Subject line, "We need to talk." I deleted it. Then another from Mom. "You've embarrassed this family." Deleted. Then Dad. "You've crossed a line." Deleted. I blocked all their numbers. I blocked Brianna. I blocked the relatives who sent me angry messages calling me selfish, cruel, vindictive. I blocked them all. Because the truth was, I didn't owe them anything. Not my money, not my time, not my guilt. I'd spent my entire life trying to earn their approval, trying to be good enough, trying to matter. And in the end, the only person who needed to approve of me was me. So I did. I approved of the woman who worked 3 jobs to pay for her education. I approved of the woman who built a successful career from nothing. I approved of the woman who stood up at that wedding and told the truth, consequences be damned. I approved of myself, and that was enough. 3 months later, I was sitting in my apartment reviewing investment portfolios with Marcus. When my doorbell rang, I wasn't expecting anyone. I opened the door to find Ethan standing there, alone. No Brianna, no parents. Just my little brother, looking smaller than I remembered. "Can I come in?" he asked quietly. I hesitated, then stepped aside. He sat on the couch, hands clasped between his knees, staring at the floor. "Brianna left me," he said finally. 2 weeks after the wedding. She said I was broke and embarrassing. I said nothing. "And Mom and Dad?" He laughed bitterly. "They're barely speaking to me. They blame me for the scene at the wedding, for inviting you, for everything. I'm sorry." And I meant it. Not because I regretted what I'd done, but because I knew what it felt like to be discarded by them. "I don't want your pity." His voice was sharp, then softer. "I want to apologize." I sat down across from him. "For what?" "For everything. For not seeing how they treated you. For not standing up for you. For being part of the problem." He finally looked up, his eyes red. "You were right. About all of it. They spoiled me. They let me think the world owed me something. And when it didn't, I fell apart. Ethan, I don't expect you to forgive me." He stood, wiping his eyes. "I just wanted you to know that I see it now. I see what you went through, and I'm sorry." He left before I could respond. I sat there for a long time, staring at the closed door, feeling something I hadn't expected. Not satisfaction, not vindication, just sadness. Sadness for the family we could have been. Sadness for the little boy who was raised to believe he was the center of the universe. Sadness for all of us. But also hope. Because maybe, just maybe, Ethan would learn. Maybe he'd grow. Maybe he'd become the man he was supposed to be. And maybe, someday, we'd find our way back to each other. But that day wasn't today. Today I closed the door on the past and looked forward to a future where I didn't have to shrink myself to fit someone else's expectations. To a future where I was enough, just as I was. I walked to my window and looked out over Seattle, the city lights twinkling in the evening dark. Somewhere out there, my parents were probably still furious. Somewhere out there, Brianna was probably plotting her next move. Somewhere out there, the gossip was probably still spreading. But here, in my apartment, in the life I'd built with my own hands, I was free. And that was worth more than any wedding. That was worth everything.